Hello. Today is July 7th, and we're here with three sections because we're trying to speedrun it. It's government, social media, and robot. I think there's, one robot story?
There's at least four.
One, four. It's really the same. Same
That's
thing.
what I always say. Especially when it comes to felonies, right?
Everything is really running together, including the felonies.
How was your guys' 4th? Did you do anything good?
I didn't do anything exciting.
I had a bowl of oatmeal.
You just had
Ooh.
one.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Microwave oatmeal. It's so
flavor?
easy to fix.
What flavor? You go natural or?
No, this one is apple cinnamon. It's really good.
That's now is that straight
Does it have a little piece
sugar
of
or is
apple in
it
it?
sugar substitute?
No, that whole bowl that I just had was only 100 calories, so I don't know what's
So
in
sugar
it.
substitute.
But
absolutely.
It sounds amazing, and it tastes amazing.
Sounds amazing.
And it's just apple
that
cinnamon.
Goopy,
Yeah.
like sloppy sound when you're digging
just-
into.
It's like, oh, this is yeah. If you can put some apple slices in it, it actually comes out really good. The only magic that I haven't figured out is like if you have more than one packet, because one 100 calorie packet's not really enough for me. And if you put two in there with a little bit of extra water, it doesn't come out.
Why don't you just make them in separate
It
bowls?
totally that
That two separate bowls comes out way better than adding more than one.
How are you adjusting the cooking time though? That's probably where it's.
You need, the cooking time shouldn't be adjusted. It's literally the same. You just put more water.
Well, there's the magic.
Because I do that.
That doesn't
Yeah,
make
you
any
just
sense
add
to me.
more water.
Huh. Okay.
Seems like a higher volume.
Seems like a higher volume of matter would require more energy to cook, but perhaps the laws
No,
of physics
not
are
with
wrong.
oatmeal.
Maybe we need to make a video about this.
The most amazing shit post on Level 1 ever. Oh, and thanks again for Linode for sponsoring this episode of the news.
How do we relate that to oatmeal?
Experiments with technology.
Oh, okay.
See, I'm experimenting with the microwave.
If you want to experiment with digital oatmeal,
Yeah.
there's only one place to do it.
Yeah.
Cloud oatmeal.
They've actually upped their affiliate link. So instead of getting 1 month of credit, you now get $60 of credit, which you can make last up to 3 months, I think. Or it's $60 or 60 days, so 2 months, I guess, of credit. So if you use our affiliate link, you can get a little bit more credit and experiment with things. They really want you to mess with that Kubernetes cluster and some of the other services like their Amazon S3 substitute, which is quite competent. You should definitely give that a spin. They've also been writing a lot of how-tos. So like setting up the WireGuard thing, which I think we can improve on. And we will soon improve on. Because WireGuard.
Their version of that tutorial has some negative comments.
We have set about rectifying that.
Now, you know who else has gotten some negative comments? And perhaps enough for once in our lives, because we did get some concessions. Although, it seems like there was always a plan B lurking underneath when they gave up it's like, go for something that's crazy, and then when they refuse, talk them back to what's just insane, right?
This is more insane, I think. The Earn It Act amendments transfer the fight over Section 230 to the states. So yeah, the states are going to be regulating encryptions, just like the states regulate munitions, and that actually works out well.
I love this picture.
What? Don't breathe on me, bro.
So the guaranteed backdoor is gone federally. And, like making end-to-end encryption illegal, that's not part of it anymore. So that's good. That's sane. But they've opened up each state to be able to make their own rules regarding this thing. But the internet doesn't really respect state lines.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Well, we got the California privacy thing, and every website kind of has to bow to that, because how do you keep the people of California out of your website?
Yeah.
So what sort of weird mixture is this going to create when one state has it and one state doesn't?
It also seemed like the European model where the federal government was telling the state governments, look, you can levy fines against these technology companies if they don't give you a way for law enforcement to observe communications. That's what all these things are. Like, none of these things really come out and say, oh, this is a ban on encryption. It's more like law enforcement needs access to your Gmail. Law enforcement needs access to your Pinterest. Law enforcement needs access to your Escape from Tarkov loot. I don't know. And however the companies build that in, they don't care. They don't even specify. But of course, if you have end-to-end encryption, Google can't look at your message contents because it's not mathematically possible.
when it comes to the China trade war, I wonder if maybe somewhere on a federal level they're actually doing some like cross-platform planning, all the different agencies, and they keep rolling these headlines out 1 week at a time. Like every agency, it's like, all right, you wait till next week because we got to keep this in the public eye. We got to keep reminding people who the enemy is. So just one at a time, please.
FCC formally declares Huawei and ZTE national security threats. And so this is the FCC. The FCC has, quote unquote, audited the equipment or whatever. And they're like, no, this is a national security threat because these are so badly put together.
Previously, we had the White House, and I think Congress and the Department of Justice all do this same thing. And it all has different effects. The big thing here is that sweet, sweet, free broadband money will not be going to either of these companies.
Yay, Cisco.
And it turns out that the Chinese make a lot more than just our networking equipment. Did you know that they make it's like 80% of our fireworks?
I would not be surprised by that.
Which is ironic, isn't it? Let freedom ring. And another thing that they make is baggage screening equipment.
U.S. pushes Europe to reject Chinese baggage screening tech over spying fears. This is, you read the article and it's like the baggage equipment could surreptitiously report to China. And it's like, wait, I thought they keep telling us that those are on an isolated network and nobody can get to those. They're not plugged into the internet.
And isn't it fine if they look at our stuff? Because what's the difference between China looking at it and the U.S. government looking at it?
Or the TSA.
But the U.S. is the good guys, right?
Right.
So
yeah, they're saying reject, but I think a lot of the places already have that equipment in place. So that's expensive. I wonder if somebody in the U.S. government has a family member or is invested in a baggage screening equipment manufacturer.
Oh no! Damn, those conflicts
that
of
would
interest.
never happen.
In the trademark world, you are not allowed to have very generic trademarks. That is, you can't trademark something that is just like a broad definition of the thing that you're doing.
Desk
like
maker.
Wine, for example. You can't just trademark wine because it's ridiculous. And no one could create a business called that afterwards.
It's a noun.
And that has been tested when it comes to domain names, because obviously you would love to have a domain name that is just the thing you do.com, right?
Supreme Court says that generic domains like booking.com can be trademarked. This is a stunning reversal. So Wine Inc. can be wine.com, and that can be trademarked. Now, of course, booking.com said, no, we're not going to go after ebookings.com or, webbooking.com or anything like that. We promise not to. But yet I'm forced to think of Monster Energy. I think one of the comments pointed out Monster Energy went after a children's book that had monster in the name.
It was the claw marks.
Oh.
Yeah,
it wasn't even in the name.
Yeah, those claw marks have been on everything, It's that was
a staple of 90s design.
Lady Ginsburg gave us that one. Thanks.
I don't think she understands what a .com is.
I don't think she understands the planet she's on. Now, Detroit is, when we talk about the current controversy when it comes to people of color and how technology works with them, you can't get a better testing ground than Detroit, because Detroit has a very high population of people of color. But they still insist on using facial recognition software.
Detroit Police Chief, facial recognition software misidentifies 96% of the time. Detroit regulated facial recognition software and is still only used on black people. What?
Now, the idea that it's only used on black people is not, that's not a rule that they have. It's just that they only use it for certain types of crimes. And in the past, they've used it for like a year and a half. During that time, everybody who's been wanted for one of those crimes has been black, except for 2, and they were of unknown color. So he says it's okay that's wrong, because that's not the only thing that they use.
Except for that one time that was the only thing that they used.
Was that in Detroit or was that in New York?
I think that was in Michigan somewhere. I don't think it was in Detroit, but it was definitely in Michigan.
They did mention him.
Yeah.
And they claim that that's never the only thing that they use.
Except when it's not.
A detective has to make some other determination. But in his case, that was definitely how it was. DataWorks Plus is the name of the company they use. I don't know. Have we heard of them before?
Just in that last article.
They commented on this and they were like, well, technically what he's saying is true, but you're taking it out of context. They didn't give any better context. They're going to continue to use it. And the guy that spoke out against it, it says they're going to still, he's like, yeah, we're still going to use it. It's okay. Doesn't matter. Human rights, what are those? And now for our Indochina block. Good Lord. So many stories this week. First of all, we'll talk about WeChat, which is kind of their version of, I guess, WhatsApp. That would be their version of WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And it's very, very widely used, not just in China, but people who have immigrated away from China and are keeping in touch with people back home. They use WeChat a lot. And supposedly, a lot of other people are using it to communicate with them other than their friends and family.
China's influence via WeChat is flying under the radar of most Western democracies. The United Front Work Department performs its quote-unquote biggest magic through WeChat. Is it time to rein in the covert influence? This is disturbing for a lot of... it wasn't described exactly this way in 1984, but imagine the whole... like, you've got the chat platform and you've got things going viral, and the message can be subtly manipulated. And that's what's happening here. And so it's not that, everybody's aware of it. I think this is so subtle that even people in China who are sensitive to this kind of thing may not be aware of the level of manipulation.
So the example they gave was Chinese in Australia. I guess they have a huge Chinese population in Australia. And so you're only allowed to have 500 people per WeChat group. But apparently they have software to manage many, many groups of 500. And they'll give out things, it's like fun little recipes and weather and feel-good articles until something happens. So they gave the example of this Australian politician, and she made some pro-Hong Kong statements. And all of a sudden, all the WeChat groups just like weaponized and focused in on her. And so they're saying it's like, well, clearly there's some sort of organization here. What are you going to do? Nothing. You're not going to do anything. I guess you might just, like make internet restrictions. Australia's been known to do that.
If we're pro Hong Kong, did that somehow result in more ad dollars for us or less? I think less, probably.
No, I think it results in more bullets.
We actually did get a lot of bot comments in the chat on those things.
And another thing about China is that it's such a juicy market that foreign companies want to do business there. But when you do business there, you play by their rules. And there's no questions asked. It's like, all right, yeah, come on in. Yeah, set up a building, buy everything, get to the point where you can't easily extract yourself. And here are the new rules.
Chinese bank forced Western companies to install malware-laced tax software. Golden Spy is what at least Trustwave dubbed the spyware. Was found in a Chinese bank's official tax software, which the bank has been forcing Western companies to install. Even after you uninstall the software, it remains. Trustwave found this after they found some suspicious activity on their internal customers' corporate networks. And it's not clear if the bank is aware of the spyware, or if an employee put it there, or if it's supposed to be there, or if it's something more sinister. But yeah, there you go.
I like how so they said, well, it could be the Chinese government. Well, obviously, they've been known to do things like that. Could be the bank, because, business is kind of fast and loose in parts of China. Could be the development team that the bank hired, or it could be the foreign company trying to do some spying of its own. We're not sure.
It's just spying all the way down.
A lovely world. Meanwhile, China, they have their spat with Trump, obviously, and they have some issues again with Australia. Some people not enjoying that relationship. Taiwan, dark times. When it comes to actually having a little bit of a shooting war, there's only one enemy that China has right now.
Apple and Google blocked dozens of Chinese apps in India. So TikTok was among them, but there's a list of apps in this article But I guess TikTok was not one of the ones that Apple and Google blocked, but it's one of the ones that India was on India's list.
They
don't install.
Do they give a list here?
A lot of stuff from ByteDance.
Yeah, TikTok. 59 in all. And it seems like the Indian people, more than the government, are unhappy about China right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of xenophobia going on there. Because 50 Indian military people got killed in a little border skirmish. Or not 50, I think it was 20, right?
Was that a June event?
I believe so,
Feels like
yes.
ages ago now. Yeah.
So, unfortunate. And India is, ironically, after their spat with China, more and more acting like the Chinese government when it comes to the internet. Because there's certain things that they don't like, and when they don't like you, they turn you off.
Multiple service providers are blocking DuckDuckGo in India. I don't know why, but it was swept up in this. It looks like a mistake, but yeah, because DuckDuckGo is not an illegit service.
I wonder.
I use DuckDuckGo, but
So here's a screenshot, and it does say, it's not like, oh, not found. It's like, no, this has been blocked. The government doesn't like this.
Now, you can use a third-party DNS provider and get around this, but good Lord.
So yeah, I can't, like, what would DuckDuckGo be doing? Do they have a deal with Google? They just want those search results for the government?
A long time ago, people were putting words that only appear on one page, like a unique word that will be indexed by Google, and then malware would search for that word, and then whatever web page came up with that word was part of a command and control system. I wonder if DuckDuckGo has been caught up in some of the malware that they're blocking in a similar way.
Well, India, much like the rest of the world, is on a bit of a lockdown. I think their virus activity was pretty bad lately, right? Didn't they have like a resurgence?
Yeah, not as bad as here.
And so a lot of people working from home, and they are dependent on our technology or China's technology, and it seems like they're tired of that. They want to roll their own.
India's richest man takes on Zoom. So he's founding his own thing. You know, it looks suspiciously like Zoom and works a lot like Zoom.
It seems like the UI was maybe copied.
Wow, what an incredible development powerhouse. It's a GeoMeet, I guess, because it's isn't that also the name of their mobile company? It's like Geo Mobile or Reliance Geo.
He owns that as well.
Yeah. So
Mukesh Ambani?
yeah.
I don't know. I never heard of him before, but
I'm sure everyone in the comments will tell us how we pronounce that incorrectly.
he's got a few dollars. Or
The
what's
Indian Jeff Bezos.
What's the Indian? What do they call their denomination of money?
If you hadn't have asked me, I could have told you.
Yeah.
Oh, is it the RS?
Is it rupee, right? Is that right? Is that how you pronounce that,
right.
rupee?
That sounds like that would be what RS stands
I
for.
thought that was the currency from Zelda.
It is, yeah.
Is it?
Isn't that funny
hang
how
on.
back in the day, in a video game, you could make something sound exotic just by getting a common foreign version of it?
That's
Yeah, so
because of
that was right.
the American education system is so bad that we don't even know what the other currencies around the world are called.
Well, in the Philippines, they are also, just like the rest of the world, having to do a lot of teleconferencing, but their internet system is really, really bad. And so they actually said, you know what, this is so serious, we need to get together and have like a congressional meeting and talk about this. And then something funny happened.
In the Philippines, a Senate hearing on connectivity marred by awful internet connection. So, you know, we're trying to video conference to talk about the internet connection, and the internet connection was not good enough to video conference about how bad the internet connection is. Womp womp.
It would be funny if it weren't sad.
It's not. The U.S.
You
is
think
not
that's just
far
like
behind.
were they like, well, I guess this proves that we need to do something?
Well,
Or
they
do
had
you
some.
think they'll just be like, it's not that bad?
No, they had some quotes, and the one guy, like when he wrapped it up, he was like, "All right, we're gonna have to end this because obviously nobody can connect, but isn't this ironic?" Doesn't this point out what we're talking about?
You're gonna have to run a lot of undersea cables to connect all the islands in a fiber optic mesh. That would work well.
Mystery shopping. Did I ever tell you guys I was once a mystery shopper?
Oh yeah.
And I worked for a market research company, and they had other people that did mystery shopping, but those people were very unreliable. And so sometimes when they would just like disappear, we would have to do it. And one time I literally had to go, and you don't just shop, like you don't just buy stuff. Sometimes you'll go and be like, all right, where's this on the shelf? How many different things do they have? And one time I literally had to go and figure out how many different kinds of toilet paper they had at a Walmart. And I was there with my clipboard, strolling down the toilet paper aisle, marking things on the clipboard. And like every once in a while, a Walmart employee's head would like poke around the corner. They knew something was happening, but technically I wasn't doing anything wrong. But the old days of manual mystery shopping, especially in the age of people being afraid to go to the store, might be coming to an end.
Who is the mystery shopper leaving behind thousands of online shopping carts, says the Wall Street Journal in an attempt at a clickbait headline? The answer, Google. The Google bot. The Google bot is filling up shopping carts and leaving them behind. The reason? Retailers' awful behavior. So retailers will advertise one price to the bot or search engines, and then when people actually go to add the thing to their cart, it's many times more expensive. It's this arms race to get to the top of the listings, because it's like Google's like, oh, I found it for this much here. Click. That's not how much it costs. So the Google bot is acting like real people to try to figure out how much something actually costs so that it can list that price.
I've rarely felt more dirty than when I had to create some shopping cart abandoned reminder software.
I wonder what the conversion rate on that was. Like 0.1%?
Well, no, we had to track that a little bit, and they did get a couple. But they gave you a coupon. 10%. That's a pro tip. Sometimes if you just go and fill up a cart and just like, I'll leave it there, sometimes they'll throw a coupon at you.
Newegg does that.
Well, on to actually, that was the robot section, wasn't it? Because that was an AI. But to further continue on with the robot section, the MIT. Now, when it comes to machine learning, you have to have a training set, which is a group of something that someone has gone through and labeled. So if you're going to do image training, for example, you have to have a big thing of images that someone's gone through and be like, yes, these are the things that are in these images. And then it can read it and it can learn from it. But sometimes those labels can get you in trouble.
MIT apologizes and permanently pulls offline a huge data set that taught AI systems to use racist and misogynistic slurs. Oops. Yeah, there was a huge organized data set that was organized by people. And guess what? Because it was organized by people, racist and misogynistic.
They had, so some of the highlights, pictures of monkeys with, you can imagine where those went. Pictures of women in swimsuits, whore. Also, one of my favorites, pictures of pregnant women were also tagged whore. And apparently, like, just random pictures of women were tagged with the old C word. So the AI was like, if you'd feed it an image, a wholesome image at the beach, and they'd be like, oh, that's just a beach full of whores is what that is. So they've apologized.
Oops.
Unfortunate.
How did that not get caught sooner, I wonder?
I don't know. I mean, because you would think that a lot of people would use MIT's data set. But I don't think it was overwhelmingly. You got to think the troublemakers that weren't a huge percentage, right?
Yeah.
So it was probably, it took a while for somebody to work out. I was like, wait a minute. I got to trace this back. What images did you use to call this a whore? And then, it went back and I was like, oh. Or maybe for a long time, when they got a tag, it just randomly, it was correct. It's like, how did it know? Now, the old deep fake face swap, we haven't seen a lot of headlines about that. But you got to think that, it's getting better, right? And you'd be right to think it's better, but not because of what you think with these, young terrorists and, ne'er-do-wells on the internet. No, it's got some big names behind it now.
Disney research. Neural face swapping technique can provide photorealistic high-resolution video. So Disney took that stuff and has been running with it for a number of months now with actual paid PhDs working on this, and it looks really good. Shockingly good.
And they, when they were called out on it, because remember when that first came out, people were like, "Oh, this is the devil," and Disney was like, "Yeah, it's kind of the devil, but we could use it on stunt doubles, and if someone dies, like the Star Wars thing, man, this is really going to be
keep
useful."
using their body forever.
Yeah, so we're going to keep doing this. Yeah.
And here it has come to fruition.
And this is, I think it's real time, right? It's 720, so it's higher resolution than we've ever seen before in any of these. It's impressive. I mean, in 5 years, that's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking forward to it.
I can finally get one of my longtime wishes, which is the original Lord of the Rings movie with Danny DeVito as all of the characters. Or Nicolas Cage. I'll take Nicolas Cage.
Another thing that we kind of haven't heard as much about, especially since the world had almost ended, was self-driving cars. Now, of course, Tesla pushed their update, which it didn't raise the autonomy level.
An incremental update.
And
probably makes it drive into semis less.
And some of the companies are back on the road, but I think now that the new normal, things aren't better, but this is the new normal. So let's go back to announcing pie in the sky self-driving stuff every couple of months.
Nvidia and Mercedes to roll out software-defined autonomous vehicles by 2024. Vehicles receive over-the-air updates to ensure they are equipped with the latest autonomous features. So Nvidia and Mercedes think they can do it. They're going to need a huge data set.
Over-the-air updates for cars. God, that sounds like a bad idea.
What's the worst that can happen? Your car just shuts down while you're driving?
Not any worse than BMW's subscription heated seats.
I gotta think the worst that could happen would be, a bus wreck that kills many, many people. Maybe someone drives into a fuel station.
Just GTA.
They say it's gonna be fine, and they're expecting level 3 to 4 autonomy. So we're still not at that magic number, but closer, I guess, than Tesla in 2024. Not yet. They don't have it yet. Interesting. And that's not the only robot company. Again, I think we've hit the point where they're like, all right, things aren't going back to normal. Let's just start announcing self-driving stuff again. It's time. We're ready to get back into this.
Polestar will build some sort of ride-hailing Robotaxi with Waymo. There's no details. There's literally no details other than Polestar and Waymo are going to get together to build a Robotaxi. Depending on what they do, this might not be entirely unrealistic. So, like, as I was reading this, I was thinking about, like, the bus system in Hawaii. There's basically just a circuit of buses. And you can, if you're a tourist, they're tourist buses, so you could just get on and get off because they go to all the touristy things. And that, in a self-driving format, could make a lot of sense because it's a closed circuit. The bus stops are all preset. The passenger interaction doesn't need to be a thing. You can just hop on and hop off however you want. I could see that. That would make sense.
Polestar just makes me think of strippers.
I was going to say that.
Terrible name. Terrible name.
Well, I thought this was in Vegas or somewhere, so it was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But
it's just a pole in the car.
Yeah, Waymo only operates in those desert places where the roads are just perfect grids.
The stripper buses are not really, like, you seem like that's a really amazing idea, but it's not because of the stop-and-go nature of traffic in an urban center.
And also the modern issue with being packed on buses with other people.
Yeah. Well, they have those in Vegas.
When it comes to Facebook's reign of terror, what they do best is buy other companies that are successful. They're really good at that. And you might think, well, that's not something that you're good at. You're just taking something that's already there and you're buying it. Yes, but they're very good at figuring out which ones to buy. And sometimes when they can't buy it, they try to build it themselves. Not as good. Not as good at that.
Facebook is shutting down TikTok clone Lasso and Pinterest rival Hobbi.
I'd never even heard of Hobbi.
I don't think anyone had. Have you heard of Lasso?
Nope.
No.
Well, rip, I guess. You won't be missed.
Somebody should write an hilarious eulogy for them.
What can you say about Hobbi? No, really. What can you say?
I heard she didn't suffer. Now, Zuckerberg has been having a bit of a tough time. I don't think that June was his favorite month.
No.
And there actually were a couple of stories that more piling on to the adpocalypse. More people abandoning ship. That's the cool thing to do right now. That's the way to signal. That's the July signal, is we're leaving Facebook. That makes people like you again if you're an evil corporation. And behind the scenes, it's been leaked what Zuckerberg actually thinks about that, and it's kind of funny.
Zuckerberg says that advertisers will be back to Facebook soon enough. So he doesn't really see it as a big deal, although he's unhappy with the whole stock price and blah, blah, blah. We're going to have some more stories about this, but journalists are finally sort of starting to get clued into that Zuckerberg is basically just pandering in literally everything.
So he's chosen this hill to die on, so.
You think so? He seems so genuine. So human and warm. Now
I feel like we could be friends.
You think you could? Yeah. What would you talk about?
Was it him who did the weird goat dinner?
Yeah,
I would like
yes.
to talk about that.
You think he wants to talk about that? Wouldn't you be afraid that road would lead you eating undercooked goat?
I mean, the way that episode was described, it sounds exactly like what the writers would have come up with for like when Data discovered like a hunting ritual, and it was like, "Hey, Commander Riker, would you like some raw deer that I've just procured?" And it's like, Data, this is not what we do.
I do seem to remember some people in the comments said that was exaggerated, but like I never got the full story, and I want to hear it from the robot's mouth about what happened.
Was it
that
Dorsey
day.
that said that?
Yeah.
Also another guy that I don't trust, so. Well, let's think back before all of the more recent calamities to the salad days of Cambridge Analytica. If you don't remember Cambridge Analytica, they were using the Facebook API in a very nefarious way. Right after it was discovered, Facebook said, "We are getting rid of that API. It will not be available." And then like 6 months later, it came out that a bunch of companies still had access to the API, and they're like, "No, seriously, this time we're done with it. It's over." And then another like 6 months passed, and then we found out that a couple of companies still had access to it, and they're like, "What? No, for sure this time." And then it was gone forever.
Facebook says 5,000 app developers got user data after the cutoff date. Facebook privacy mechanism blocks apps from receiving user data if users didn't use an app for 90 days. Facebook said, "Oops, we audited it, and 5,000 apps continue to receive user data regardless." Oopsie.
Fool me 5 times. And the reason that Facebook is in the hot water that he is in is because he will not back down when it comes to politics. A lot of people understand how powerful social media is when it comes to influencing politics. And Zuckerberg says, post whatever you want politically on Facebook. We don't monitor that, although he has changed his tune a little bit. But more and more people are pressing him to, like Trump specifically, you must not let Trump speak on Facebook. That cannot be allowed. And it seems like based on this, Washington Post, they might have a little bit of bias, that he is more committed to this than anyone ever thought.
Zuckerberg once wanted to sanction Trump, but then Facebook wrote rules that accommodated him. So this is really just talking about how I guess the internal politics at Facebook sort of factored in here, because it's like, no, Mr. Zuckerberg, if we do that, then it's going to hurt our ad revenue. Oh, wait.
And it did.
The second picture in this little slideshow at the top of the article, I never really contemplated what it would be like for a robot and Trump to meet.
Is Zuckerberg that short?
Energy.
Look how tiny he is.
Yeah. A bizarre energy in this shot.
I guess
some
with
would
all
say
those
sexual tension.
with all those like rare alloys and the battery system, you want to make it as small as possible, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to waste. Did you say sexual tension? Can you imagine just like, Grump just wraps his hands around the back of his head and kisses him?
Oh.
Now that'd be a power
Write that
couple.
fanfic, Chip. How would Melania factor into that? Oh, wait, isn't Zuckerberg married too? That would be bizarre.
They're both trophies anyway. So
It's 2020. You never know.
If Trump came out as full homosexual, could he ever get that portion of the vote?
No. There's no
I
way.
don't think so. No. I think some gay people would turn straight.
I think
just
he's
so
done
they
too much
weren't.
damage.
Because they hate him so much. He would definitely lose his base if he did that. Well,
Yeah.
Facebook is not the only social media. I consider Twitch social media. Would you say that?
Yeah.
That's
It's a little bit of
Kind
both.
of. I mean, it's
you don't
not.
you don't have to be social on it, but that's kind of where the magic is. Anyway, recently somebody in the Trump campaign, I gotta wonder, probably some young page or something, was like, "Hey, we could be streaming online. I mean, it's kind of popular." And they did, and I think it was fairly popular on Twitch, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Bernie
But-
did it a few months ago as well.
Bernie doesn't surprise me, because Bernie is,
Yeah.
I mean, his entire campaign and probably most of his decisions are made by younger people. While he
Yeah.
looks for his stool softener or whatever it is he does. But Trump is kind of a weird match for Twitch, but then maybe not. When I consider our Twitch lurkers, they're Trump people for sure. Anyway, Twitch has certain guidelines when it comes to hate and violence and stuff like that, and of course,
Twitch temporarily bans President Trump. Temporary suspension for hateful content. Yeah, I saw the Mount Rushmore address. I'd believe it.
I didn't watch that. How bad was it?
It was not unifying. Not.
Did you feel heartened as a nation while watching it?
what would you say if you were going to try to unify this country?
I'd have to think about
I
it.
don't think there's any way to do it. I'm not saying I'm not forgiving him for what he's doing. I'm just saying, what are you going to do?
I think having just a little bit more humility and a little bit more. I've tried to find apolitical experts and scientists to help me figure this out, and there's a difference of
Historians.
opinion for this, that, and the other. But I don't know.
The thing about it is, I don't think there are any apolitical. There's no apolitical journalists and there's no apolitical scientists anymore. It's all one side or the other.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's what was it? Was it? I think it was a quote from Einstein, something like, one fact is more powerful than 1,000 scientists. But it's getting to be, it's like one fact is more powerful than 1,000 politicians.
But the facts are no longer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up in the air because you have two sides, quote unquote, doing
The
science,
facts, yeah.
then finding something completely different. So you still have to make a choice. It's not how that's supposed to work. And finally, Twitter, one of the things that people have asked for forever was an edit button on tweets. There's a lot of reasons that doesn't make sense, but people still beg for it. And Twitter has completely refused forever. And now they're saying what really actually boils down to it's never going to happen.
Twitter says it will add an edit button to tweets when everyone wears a mask. Oh, I see what you did
That's never
there.
happening. Rip in peace.
Yeah, the anti-mask crowd, they have a lot of interesting theories.
I wonder if there was you see those old Roman plays and the old Roman statues and everybody wore togas. At some point, there was a transition from togas to pants. You got to wonder if there was somebody that was so anti-pants.
I don't think the peasants were wearing togas.
That was just the royalty.
The politicians. Yeah. Yeah. That was a symbol. That was like the powdered wig.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean the toga. I'm sure it's comfortable, but it's just not practical.
Pants. Well, no, there were you would have loins because you would have to gird your loins like that. The origin of that is like when you were getting ready to attack, and you would basically turn your loins into a pair of shorts. That was the act of girding them.
Which points out the ridiculousness of the toga.
Yeah.
But
Well,
if
pants
you're-
are just clearly superior.
But if you're out, working in the field all day, I don't think you want to waste your time with a toga.
Or a mask, as it were. The mask is it's clearly superior.
Well, Krista, I would say give us a mask goodbye, but you don't have a mask.
I don't have one on me, but I have one downstairs. But bye.